Welcome to the Land, Leisure and Tourism podcast, where we explore fresh ideas, drive innovation, inspiration and growth across the land, leisure and tourism sectors. Our mission, to empower businesses and arm you with the knowledge to help you grow and succeed in the tourism industry. I am your host, Agustina, and today we have an amazing episode lined up. We are going to be talking all about accessibility across the tourism sector, and we have somebody from Nimbus Disability joining us today who are experts in helping businesses become accessible. Whatever you're running across the tourism sector, they can help you. So thank you, Mark, for joining us today. How are you doing today?
Absolute pleasure. Great to be back at the NEC.
I know. Well, you were saying it's kind of a second home to you.
Absolutely is. Yeah, we obviously we're always here for shows like LLT, but equally we've got our partners who we work with at the Ticket Factory just across the road.
That's amazing. So can go say a quick hello.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your role. What do you do at Nimbus?
Nimbus Disability, we started out as a business-to-business consultancy. So we're working with organisations almost 20 years ago on how to help disabled customers. But it changed predominantly with the access card, so which is kind of where the business is today.
That sounds amazing. And 20 years, that's quite a lot of knowledge that you guys are probably, building up as well and helping so many businesses across the tourism and as well the community.
Absolutely, and especially as things have changed in the UK with a lot of different legislation changes from what was the Disability Discrimination Act to the Equality Act. So we're really working with those businesses in actually making sure that they meet that obligation to their disabled customers.
That's amazing, because I'm sure there's so many questions. And now, starting with that, if there is a business that wants to become more accessible, what do you think is the first step that they should take or something to consider?
I think the first step is to really start that creative thinking. My motto really is that access is 90% creative thinking, and the last 10% you need to get a hammer out and make a difference. So really, to start that creative thinking, think about the barriers. So don't necessarily think about what your disabled customers are going through from a medical perspective. Think about the barriers that you might have. The step's a barrier. Think about how you get the ramp. Think about how you start to make those changes.
And there's so many, like you say, little things that I'm sure can help, and it doesn't have to be something maybe huge, but it's starting those little steps that will make a whole lot of difference as well.
It really is, and one of the easiest things to do is just think about the information that you have. Think about your website, how you can convey what access you can offer and what you can't, and information is power, particularly for disabled people, because as I sit at home and want to have a great experience, I want to get the phone out, get my tablet out, go on the computer and find out, can I actually access the NEC? And once I find out that I can have that great experience.
That is really good. And, like you say, information is so important. There's so much power, because if you're preparing to go somewhere, you want to have that information and be prepared and know, and also feel, welcome, feel like it's one of those things that information can be so important. So how does Nimbus help with this? Why should businesses come to Nimbus to achieve these goals?
Yeah, well, I think it's our unique approach. So what we do is we use the social model. So the social model really does turn things on its head. So we utilise 9 symbols, particularly on our access card, but that is around a step is a barrier, level access is a barrier, not having access to audio visual information in the right format can be a barrier. So we work those organisations to identify what those barriers might well be and then put solutions in place. Equally, we work with customer service teams in actually sort of telling those advisors, how do you actually have the confidence to be able to interact with your disabled customers? So a great example that we have that I always talk to our partners and providers about is my medical disability is that I'm an amputee, but I use a wheelchair. But our managing director, Martin, has exactly the same amputation as myself, but uses crutches. So if we called up a customer service line and were asked what's our disability, we'd both say we're amputees. But actually my access requirement is that I need a ramp or an elevator, where Martin's is that he can't stand in a queue. So once we start to unpick those sorts of forget the disability, think about the barrier, the light bulb moment really does happen. So for us, it's trying to convey those really key points to those businesses.
I love that, and I think the way you're explaining it as well, it makes it a lot more personable because, like you say, every person is different. You have a different story. So I think if businesses can try and access that and help, particularly each person, it's make every experience unique as well.
Indeed, and we're working from a perspective of lived experience. So our business is based on the experiences that we've had as individuals that's utilised venues like the BP Pulse Arena just there, or Utility Arena in the centre of Birmingham. So we've utilised those facilities. So we can take that now in leadership roles, in change maker roles, in solution provider roles, to actually make that difference.
That's amazing. And I think it's that bridge in between, the community and as well the businesses. And like you say, you have 20 years of experience as well. So I'm sure you've helped so many different businesses from so many different sizes. And each business is different and each person is different.
This is the scale of what the access card has become, because we can integrate it now into ticketing systems if you're going to a theme park. So if you're going to go to Peppa Pig World, you can have your access requirements pulled through to your ticket. So they know to expect you, they can meet your access needs, but equally you can use the card itself at Primark, for example, where they'll open up another till if there's a queue. So if you have difficulty with the queue, and if you've got autism, for example, so how each business can utilise what we do can be very different, but it's actually still based on the same concept.
That's amazing. It can be such a small thing, but create change across the whole country. That's amazing. And you did touch a little bit upon this about also how your customer service, feels prepared to, deal with different situations. So what do you think are some key things that you would teach staff, just in general, just some key things?
Key things. It's about the confidence. It's about the confidence to know that you can't do the wrong thing if you know that you're there to actually improve access. So to have the confidence to be able to say to those customers, what's your access requirements? Be it on the phone, be it by email, be it on site at front of house at a theme park at Alton Towers, for example. It's having that confidence to be able to say, how can we help you with your access requirements? So, and then to know and understand what we always do is make sure that those symbols that we have, we've got a cheat sheet in order for those businesses to know what they can do in order to meet a certain kind of access requirement. So having that knowledge, having that information, having it consistently done throughout the business. So if you are going to go to Alton Towers, you can have a great similar experience at Poulton's Park, at Legoland, at West Midlands Safari Park, at Fisher's Farm Park. So all those attractions can have a consistent way they're going to meet my access requirements.
Yes, I love what you said about it all being about communication and getting to know the person as well and having those conversations.
Absolutely, it really is knowing what your customers' access requirements are and being confident enough to be able to ask, or actually have the thought process in place to be able to know what they are before you arrive. So, for example, some of the great changes that's happened at Glastonbury Festival is that the festival organisers know what my access requirements might well be for a certain camp space, for electricity. So we're enabling those sorts of things to happen prior to arrival, so the organisers can actually meet those requirements.
That's amazing, because it makes the communication between the business and the person so much better as well. Indeed. It makes the experience for everybody 100 times better.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And again, you have experience over 20 years. You've visited so many places, talked to so many people. What do you think are some common things that different venues you've found lacking, maybe, that the UK would need to work on?
I think where the change has been, particularly in the last 10 years, is how to ensure that the reasonable adjustments are protected. So the challenges has been potentially the misuse of reasonable adjustments. So people getting access to certain ride access passes, for example, at theme parks where you need to skip the queue because you can't be in the queue. So some people might want to misuse that to get priority access or essential companion tickets. So what we've been able to do is ensure that we've reduced or mitigated to a certain degree that misuse by our processes that we have behind the scenes in order to issue access cards. So those organisations that we work with are having the confidence that we're providing a solution to that misuse that's really meeting the needs of the business because it has a budgetary and resource impact, but equally meeting the needs of disabled people that need a reasonable adjustment to participate, like I say, at a theme park.
Yeah, because it's all about creating that accessible experience. There's no need to misuse, like you say, what's meant to be, something welcoming and something good, and to abuse that process.
Yes, and I'm not saying that it's wide, but actually it has happened. And I think the fact that we've been able to introduce something that has been unique across the world to a certain degree and not necessarily replicated anywhere else, which I think is why the success and the importance of the scheme and what we do has really been taken up, particularly with the attraction sector.
That's amazing. And I think that one maybe is more customer related. Do you think is there anything that businesses maybe overlook?
I think sometimes not necessarily overlook, but have the confidence to tackle. So it may have always seemed to be a little contentious to start to look at how they do make sure that there's a robust process to validate an access requirement, which is, for example, some theme parks have had that done by nursing staff on site. Well, actually, that's not cost effective, but actually it's not effective for disabled people having to be in a queue to then convey an access requirement. So the fact that we can do that prior and have something that spans 3 years as the scheme operates means that it is something that provides a consistent approach, because once you've got an access card or got one of our free registrations that you could use at Merlin Entertainment or Poulton's Park, for example, you don't have to continuously do that. You don't have to continuously be in that queue to validate an access requirement.
It makes it more efficient as well
on
all ends. That's really good. And also, again, we keep talking about the access card. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the backstory, how it came to be?
Absolutely. Well, our managing director, Martin Austin, was at Download Festival almost 10 years ago. And there were individuals that was having to convey the disability to get access to a level viewing platform. So power wheelchair users having to produce benefits letters. So Martin at that point said, this is not real. I mean, Download is it's always wet, it always rains at Download, so you've got muddy benefits letters having to be shown, and he said that there's got to be a different way to be able to communicate your access requirements, and he literally scribbled out an idea of the access card, and it started from there. It steadily grew, but it really transformed when 6-7 years ago, the Ticket Factory, which is based behind us, said to us, is there a way that we can integrate the information that you hold about the access requirements of customers into their system to be able to protect and then unlock those reasonable adjustments, so essential companion tickets or access to certain seating areas if you need a BSL interpreters. So we worked with the Ticket Factory in creating this concept that was safe and secure and robust. But what it did at that point is it meant that I was no longer disproportionate to a non-disabled person, because I could book tickets online. And that was the real game changer. So once that was working here with a Ticket Factory, was able to implement it with so many other organisations in so many different ways. So that's where the growth of the access card took off predominantly.
That's amazing. And after 10 years, you can definitely see, that it's made a change as well.
It absolutely has. And now we've got well over 500,000 card holders in the UK. We operate in New Zealand as well. So we are working at a global level now. And it's just great to be able to be part of that process, that journey.
That's amazing. And it's so good that they approached you as well. And now it gives that, that want to change and to do better and to make things more accessible.
Absolutely. Like I say, and I think the more and more that we work with other organisations, we work on the basis that our profile is so important, ensuring that we are able to offer business improvements, but actually be able to show to our disabled customers that they are going to have a far better experience because of a solution that we've been able to provide.
I love that, because also I think you've mentioned it this morning when we were chatting before, that you guys also build a relationship with your customers as well. So for example, how does that process work, meeting different customers, or if somebody wants to get an access card, how does that work for them?
Indeed, well, we've got two different customers. We've got the businesses that we work with, like the Ticket Factory, and then we've got disabled people. But I think it's really important that disabled people understand the reasons as to what we do, and we need to ensure that we are working closely with those. We have ambassadors for different sectors. So we have a theme park ambassador that really celebrates the work that the Access Card has done with those theme parks. And there is a great video on our website of Iona just talking about those experiences. So it's great if people can experience that through Iona's perspective as well. But I think what's really interesting about LLT is the fact that those organisations that we work with within the attraction sector can actually catch up with us, can have conversations. So as much as it's great to meet new customers, it's truly important when we're here to be able to experience and understand what's happened in the past year with the likes of West Midlands Safari Park or Drayton Manor, etc. So it's a great opportunity to catch up.
That's amazing, because you can keep building those relationships as well, catch up, see what's working, maybe something that they've observed being on site that maybe, can be better. So that's
completely, because their customers are our customers, and we can't lose sight of that. And to understand that things are working for disabled. As a disabled person, we want to make sure that things are working effectively.
That's amazing. And yeah, I think events like LLT do definitely provide that platform to connect. And now, on a different note, do you have a favorite experience of yourself at a theme park? A good, lovely memory? Or an adventure?
It's difficult to say with theme parks because I'm not actually that much of a theme park goer.
Anywhere then.
But it is what I do experience is when I do go to a theme park is that I see so many other disabled visitors having a great time, and knowing that we've been a part in the process, enabling them to get to that point of having a wonderful time, and hopefully then go back and do it again. But for us, it's a case of, we know that if you have a great experience at a theme park, there's a good chance you're going to go and have a great experience here at Resorts World. That means that you're going to then go on and have a great experience at Glastonbury. So the journey that we can start in working with the attraction sector, predominantly with a lot of young people, young disabled people, it's just fantastic feeling.
That's amazing. And something we spoke a lot with Drayton Manor was creating those magical and really good memories. Yeah. So like you just said, when you see a kid having the time of their life and you're like, we had a teeny tiny part in that, in making their day, that's so fulfilling.
It absolutely
amazing.
Is. Absolutely
I love that. And again, it can change lives as well.
Yeah, and both myself and Martin have had those life-changing moments when we were younger and taken us on certain pathways and journeys. So if we know how to unpick that working with these organisations, that's just an absolute win for us.
And it's also the support, because I'm sure there's so many questions as well, both from businesses and your customers. So I think having, you said you started as a consultancy?
Yeah, absolutely. And we still work towards the Equality Act. So for us, it's making sure that we understand what the Equality Act means to a disabled person, then conveying that to an access requirement so those organisations can meet that reasonable adjustment. But the conversations that we have quite often are in the grey areas of the Equality Act, in what does this mean in practice on site, what does it mean in terms of access to a roller coaster, what does it mean in terms of how queue jumps operate. So we work quite often with those organisations in unpicking what it does mean operationally or strategically, so that they can put things in place. It is the creative thinking that makes things happen.
And I think it also goes back to what you were saying about confidence as well. If you're giving them all this information, then they can act with that confidence that you were mentioning through their attractions, but also through their customer service as well.
Completely. And I will go back to the fact, as much as customer service need to have confidence, organisational leadership needs to have the confidence to take those businesses in a certain direction.
And it sounds like you guys have so many big achievements. Is there any big milestones that you'd like to share with us?
The growth has been fantastic, but I think ultimately one of the biggest achievements and milestones was getting the Queen's Award for Innovation in 2022. It was one of the last Queen's Awards ever presented, so the Queen's signature is one of the last on our document and our certification. So getting that recognition at that level was not just great for the scheme and the business, but it was also great for the staff. the staff that have been part of that journey, part of that process. So it was a great celebration to get the award, and it's also been a great springboard as well for us to take the business to new levels, and in some respects in new directions with new partners as well.
That is really good. And do you think, Nimbus, is there any, projects coming up, anything that you want to share or anything that you guys are excited about?
We're really excited to obviously to be growing to a certain level, but I think that there are shifts more towards the hospitality sector, more towards resorts that offer both accommodation and entertainment and attraction as part of that. So we want to stay on mission. We don't want to have mission drift, but we see that the digital world and how to integrate into some different sectors, there's a world of opportunity, and we're there just to hopefully be the engine room that provides those solutions.
Again, going back to that bridge, and I'm sure there's so many new businesses that are emerging that will need also that helping hand, and also I'm sure they want to grow, and you can grow together as well.
Yeah, completely. We have contacts from the smallest businesses, from coffee shops up to strategic organisations, every single week on how they can learn from what's happened over the past 10 years.
Now, also speaking of smaller businesses, is there anything that maybe a business can do to track their progress or measure their progress?
It's always difficult to measure progress in how you make improvements. There is measures around what is the purple pound and how that can benefit business, but I think a lot of it comes down to your customer service, is how your repeat visitors do come back to a business, particularly your disabled customers. Again, we've got a great relationship here in Birmingham, and I drive all the way to Birmingham to have that great experience. I'm a return customer because I can book online. I know that I'm going to have my needs met. I know that the Access team is going to be absolutely outstanding. So how you continue to get that repeat business, and I think that's a real good measure to start to think, how can I attract somebody sitting at home, give them a great experience, and then have them come back to get home and want to come back again next week or next year. I think that's a really good measure.
That is so good, because again, creating that loyal, customer build, and just making everybody feel welcome, and also the venues. It's just, again, that bridge. It goes back to all the amazing communication and being the bridge that the companies need. That's amazing. Thank you so much for all this information. It's been so insightful, and honestly, the work that you guys have done, it's amazing. And thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to tune in to our next one, which will be a really good one. And until then, keep creating amazing memories.